the minutes of our previous meeting from 8/12 of 2020, copies of which are in your meeting packets. Any corrections or revisions to the minutes necessary? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Motion by Herbst, is there a second? Second by Martins. No discussion? Members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. The minutes are then approved. Item number 2 is a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of $4,445,000 in general obligation promissory notes, Series 2020D. And I'll let Mary Ann walk us through some good news on our debt sale today.
Yep, so the last time Finance and Common Council considered our debt issuance, they were really authorizing us to go out, develop the official statement, which is the presentation for all potential bond buyers on the finances of the city, to reach out to Moody's, which is the bond rating, for them to give us a rating on our debt, and then to actually have the sale. So Ellers conducts the sale on behalf of the city of Wausau, and it's a competitive process. So we had 2 issues, if you recall. Our 10-year promissory note, which included our regular street projects and then a couple of capital projects related to some tax increment districts. That issue was originally going to be $5,445,000. We were able to reduce the size of that issue to $5,390,000, reduction of $55,000 because debt issuance costs came in lower than expected. We received 3 bids during the process. The lowest bid that was Robert W. Baird, and the interest rate, the true interest rate that they had quoted us was 1.1362%, which again was less than our projections. So overall on that issue, we would save about $174,000 from what we had projected. So, they are recommending going forward. I know you haven't received or had this information much ahead of time because, like I said, the sale occurred today. But when you look at where we entered the market as far as interest rate yields are concerned, they have a presentation. I think it's the last page of the sale document. This chart here, and you can see that the interest rates really bottomed out right at the beginning to early August, and so they've snuck up a little bit, but still, compared to even some of these lower ranges here, we still got a very favorable rate, and we had entered the market at a very good time, particularly if interest rates are going to steadily climb now.
Well, this is excellent news.
Yep.
Excellent news because we can get the work in progress done and paid for, and less principal and interest cost. And I don't know that I've ever seen an interest rate that low on any of our municipal stuff.
Yes, and I did want to point out, even with these 2 issues, this issue and then the refinancing of the other issue, our total outstanding debt, if we compare for the city, as of December 31st of 2019 to December 31st of 2020, will actually go down. Last year, at the end of the year, it was $83,869,000. At the end of this year, it will be $81,790,000, including these issues. So we are headed in the right direction.
Excellent.
As far as outstanding debt. And of course, our equalized value went up pretty significantly this year, so we would be at 44% of our capacity.
That's excellent as well, because just a few years ago, we were creeping up on 52.
Yeah.
So, good trend there as well. Does anyone have questions for Mary Ann about the debt sale on this particular item? This is the one for our capital projects. A number of these projects are already in the works. If not, is there a motion then to approve this debt sale? Motion by Martins. Is there a second? Second by Herbst. Further discussion or questions? Seeing none? Oh, go ahead, Deb.
I was just going to mention, because the sale was today, you had, under item number 2 on the agenda, you had forecasted $5,445,000, but because the issuance was today, the actual amount is $5,390,000.
Yep.
Is that correct, Mary Ann?
Yep. So it's gone down by 55,000 due to more favorable debt issuance costs.
Okay. I don't see our city attorney here. I guess I'm just wondering, is this allowed? Oh,
It is, Nate Miller's back there.
I'm sorry, he was right behind Katie, so I didn't see him. I just was, had an issue, is this appropriate with changing the agenda under,
It is, I mean, Nate's pretty new to public finance, but, you know, your authorizing resolution is, we can't go over what you had authorized, the 5,445, but we can come under it. So that really is, at least our bond counsel, that's been their advice.
can you confirm that? Is that,
I'd have to go look into that. Ann is upstairs, she's getting ready for council, so I was just filling in for her.
okay. I guess I just don't know enough about this, that I don't know if it's appropriate, or are we voting on something that's not appropriate, or under, you know,
You're not required to borrow the amount that you state in the agenda. Obviously, your resolution that you sent forward to council would be approving the figures that are on the debt sale. And so this is really no different than amending the resolution on the floor to reduce the amount. So your agenda says you would like to borrow $5,445,000 for these projects. Upon the debt sale and the discussion, it's been revealed that we can amend that amount to $5,390,000. And so your motion to approve would be to approve the debt sale in the revised amount. And then when it goes to council, they would vote on that new amount. But that doesn't mean that your posting is inappropriate. It's just that you expected that you would have to borrow more than you actually need to borrow.
Right.
no, my question isn't that. My question is, under open meetings, changing this agenda item numerically, is that allowed legally or not?
Can I get an answer to you in a little bit?
Sure,
Okay.
because at this point, I would
I
decline
think your answer
to
hasn't been
vote
answered, but
unless
I
I
can
have
go
an
confirm.
answer.
I said,
Come on up, Mayor.
I don't think, is it this mic or is it this one? I don't
It's
think
that
the agenda item has changed. It's the content of the resolution you're voting on.
So your agenda item is for public notice is to indicate that you intend to borrow money. And so you intend to borrow money, you just intend to borrow less money. But you're not required to hold true to that amount unless you are going to go above. Then you have to give notice that you're going to
Okay.
exceed.
What
that
I'm
cap.
referring to is the agenda.
Yeah.
Correct.
So the agenda numbers are different. And I guess,
They almost always are.
well, but I'm a
the-
newbie.
Right.
And because of fiduciary, I want to make sure this is something that's appropriate.
Okay.
So I'd like that information before I would vote. Or
Okay.
otherwise, I will abstain.
Okay.
Thank you.
We can have Nate go up and get that. If you want to defer action then on, because item number 3 is going to be the same thing because that's less money as well. So if you want to defer action on 2 and 3 until Nate gets back, we can take item 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then when he re-enters the room, we can act on 2 and 3, if you'd have a different comfort level with that.
I would.
Okay.
I don't know if the rest of you do, but I take the fiduciary role very seriously, and I just want to make sure we're not doing anything that's a little technical, something that is inappropriate. So I would prefer deferring,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
Let's
Thank you.
Hold off then. And so we'll hold action then on 2 and 3. We'll move to item number 4, which is the July 2020 General Fund Financial Report. If we want to just walk through kind of where we're at, we're halfway through the year. So hopefully being halfway through the year, we're halfway through our budget. And we'll have Mary Ann walk us through that report.
Okay. All right. So We've been reporting kind of all along that finances are looking pretty good for this year, and that trend is definitely continuing. I'm trying to think. I did look at, one of our concerns when we were starting the year was whether we were going to see some growing delinquencies in our real estate tax payments. Of course, that doesn't become a long-term problem of the city because after collections on July 31st, the county settles in full with the city and the technical college and the school. So we all get our money and then the county holds that receivable. But there was still concern that that would be a sign of long-term problems for the county or future tax payments. We actually saw that our collections were a little bit stronger this year. And we also took a look at our utility bill receivables because, typically, once we get to the end of summer, we're paying attention to our utility bill receivables because by that mid-October, if someone is delinquent on their utility bills, then that goes on their taxes too. And we have not seen any signs of growing delinquencies from the water and sewer utility either. So just a good sign for the city of Wausau as far as our those other types of receivables are concerned. And then really no big changes in either revenues or expenses for us. We've been running substantially lower in public works because of the milder winter that we're experiencing in 2020 versus 2019. And so really, I don't have any major changes to disclose.
Okay, does anyone have questions for Mary Ann for where we're at now at the midpoint? Okay. If not, we'll just take a pause because Nate is back, and so he may have an answer for us on item number 2 and 3, and we can go back to our normal order.
Yes, I do. Okay, so it's still germane to the issue, and so changing the number does not have anything to do with violating open meetings law. So it is allowed.
Okay,
All right, thank you very much.
okay. And if we shift gears back on that item, we did have a motion and a second on the floor to approve that item. We had a motion from Martins and a second from Herbst. Further discussion then or questions on that debt issue item? If not, members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. That motion carries. Item number 3 is resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of $6,740,000 of taxable general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2020E. And Mary Ann can walk us through this one. This one is the refinance.
Yep, and this is refinancing an outstanding issue. I believe the outstanding issue had interest rate of over 2%. This issue, we actually had 6 bidders on this issue. It's 15-year debt at 1.3581%. The low bid went to, went to Piper Sandler and Company out of Chicago. The total interest that we'll pay over the life of the issue is $723,753.41. Again, we expect in the last 5 years of this issue, we'll be able to call it at any time, and I would expect that that is something that we will try to accomplish because we'll have a better idea at that time of what our increment is going to be in the district. And if you recall, we have another issue that will be callable in 2021, and that issue will look at managing with a shorter retirement period. Again, this issue is $115,000 less than we had expected, so our principal that we had to issue is $6,625,000 versus the $6,740,000. And I guess that's what I have to say about that.
All right. Anytime we can refinance and save some money on time and interest, we love that. So does anyone else have questions on this item for Mary Ann? If not, is there a motion to approve? Motion by Watson, is there a second? Second by Martins. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None are opposed, and that motion carries as well. That brings us back to item number 5, which is discussion and possible action on establishing a sale price for old parking meters. And you can see in the photo from your packets, there's a lot of them to be had for anyone who would like to own old parking meters. So in the packets, we've got a proposal to sell them through the customer service desk for anyone who wants them. I believe they were either $10 or $15, depending on the single face, double face. Was that?
Yep.
Okay. What are your thoughts on that, committee? It's a good way to get rid of surplus. Okay. Do we have a motion then to approve the sale at that price? Motion by Watson. Is there a second? Second by Herbst. Further discussion or questions? Go ahead, Dawn.
Comment. I don't recall red parking meters. Are they very, very old?
Were they in the Jefferson ramp?
They were in the Jefferson ramp. It's a kind of a funny story because I think we were trying to dress up the inside of the ramp. So we thought, oh, we'll put red meters in there. I don't know why, but no one wanted to use them because they were red and they thought that that meant something, like they were only for special people or something.
Oh, no.
It was kind of funny how the littlest things can confuse
Can
people.
confuse, exactly.
Well, I'm buying two. I want a single and I want a double.
Oh,
I think
there
they're
you
so
go.
unique.
Perfect. Okay, go ahead, Deb.
I was just wondering, did anyone take a look at what would be the scrap value, compared to selling it?
No, but I don't know what the weight is or anything like that, Deb, but it would be considerably less than trying to sell them. I mean, there really isn't a lot of value there.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second on the floor then to approve the sale. Members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. That motion carries as well. Item number 6 is discussion and possible action on a declaration of covenants, conditions, restrictions, and easements for the Wausau East Riverfront. And so this one, it looks like this really is reserving our ability to access the public amenities that we have already down there. There's some covenants for landscaping and maintenance and things. Who has this item? Does
I think Ann did.
Ann has this one? Okay. And so, okay, yep, and she's not here. We've got a copy of the agreement in our packets. And does anyone have questions on this particular item? Go ahead, Mike.
So does these deed restrictions, who do these pertain to? Is it the developers of the property, or is it, say, like, the residents of the apartment or the condo? Would they be governed by these restrictions? I couldn't quite tell.
That's a good question.
Or would they be, I suppose, by virtue of the developer having to abide by the
Covenant.
covenant, then would the renter or the tenant have to abide, or?
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, let's see.
Hey Lisa, this is Brad Lenz.
Hi, Brad.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
We
Yep.
can. Go ahead and walk us through this one if you could.
I guess that's good. Well, just to respond, I mean, the condos is a good question. It's a little more obvious in terms of, the WOW development and the apartments, because those would fall on the property owner. The condos, I believe, I'm not sure that has been detailed in here or not. I really can't speak to that without looking at the details, but the two properties that we have under agreement right now, those are a little bit more straightforward in terms of the developer / property owner that would be responsible for those.
This does bring a little more consistency and uniformity, I think, too, rather than trying to refer to a half a dozen different development agreements to find out who's responsible for what, if they're all under the same set of rules. Go ahead, Deb.
I guess I'm not completely up to date about the development itself, but it just seems that with some of these other developments in the 400 block, the city is taking on managing those parks. The 400 block, now recently, the new park out on the northwest side, and that I had understood that there was plans for the farmer's market to potentially be in the UW extension area, or has that has not been
I haven't heard about
decided on yet?
it. Not that I'm aware of.
I thought there was going to be a kind of outdoor amphitheater as well, where the farmer's market is.
That all is coming as part of the South Riverfront development, so there's a plan, but none of that is ready for
Okay.
execution.
Because when I saw here, it said it was referring to the north zone and the south zone. So I didn't know if it was part of that, I guess my concern is if we have a number of other developments along the river, is the city ending up, doing the maintenance of the river trail, but also if there's other gathering areas that are along that area where there could be condos or rentals, and for something for the residents in that area that are renting or owning, is it becoming additional maintenance by Public Works to maintain those outdoor arenas? And it just seems that, at a certain point, can the city staff all of these additional parks, lots, overall without having to hire additional staff? And then in the long run, everyone else is paying for it versus if this is an amenity to the actual rentals or condos for those residents only, well then that should be either, included in their rental revenue cost, or, for those condos, whether those are kind of association costs to maintain that property. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, that's a good point, and that's exactly what we were thinking of. So if you look, this map, this little creek is what was daylighted with the new bridge that goes across, the colorful bridge.
Okay.
So the south zone would be where the new apartments are going, as well as where Fulton Street was extended, and then the north zone is where WOW is. So the agreement not only specifies how they need to maintain their properties. I don't know the answer. I would, whether if somebody buys a condo, if that will be included or not, I would, as Brad said, probably so. But it's also for the city then to accumulate, as Deb was saying, some of the costs associated with a higher level of maintenance on the River Edge Trail in front of all of these properties. And then we would allocate it back to those properties based on the formula that's in this schedule. So on page D1, it shows what percentage of the expenses they will have. So Lot 1 would have 16.7% of the South Zone expenses, and then we'll bill those properties annually, provide them with a budget each year, and
Yep.
then bill them annually for their share of the expenses, because, you're right, Deb, they're benefiting, and their rents will be able to reflect that they're on the riverfront, right next to a trail, and have a higher level of amenity. So we thought they should maybe pay for some of that.
The chargeback is a great idea.
Okay, thank you for that explanation, Mary Ann. I guess I'm just going off topic a little bit then. Is there similar things that are being done on the west side of the river, say for East Bay or former MBX?
It was easier for us.
Because they're commercial, but they're not residential or condos.
Right, I
So
guess
is there a
just to
charge back
clarify-
for those areas as well?
Brad, go ahead.
Well, just to clarify, that could be looked at in the future, potentially, and the South Riverfront property is not included in this particular covenant. This is, even though it says south zone, it's still everything north of the eye clinic, so it's still, what we used to call the East Riverfront District or River Life area. And these are areas that are being developed right now. It's a little bit further along than, say, redeveloping the South Riverfront Farmers Market area or the East Bay area. This property is seeing development right now and is ready for future development, so that's really the only area that's under consideration right now. We could apply this model elsewhere, but this is sort of the first crack at riverfront declarations that we have.
And I think we owned the property, so when we entered into the developer agreement with those developers, they agreed to sign this. So we had some, leverage there to get them to enter into it. So like at East Bay that owns the property already, we wouldn't have a lot of leverage to get them to sign an agreement. But because these developers wanted that property and wanted to come to the riverfront, we were able to get them to agree to sign this when it was ready as part of their developer commitment.
So in many areas where the trail is not as developed as what it is on the east side of the river, a lot of the west side trails, really the only thing that we've gotten from those private sector properties is an easement
Right.
and permission to put the trail in, and that's why they're kind of underdeveloped compared to what we see on the east side, where we had, a little more ownership control and some grants from the Sternbergs to finish that east side, so.
Well, I agree that I'm happy to hear about this kind of looking at it proposal of, especially when you're talking about residential on the river or condos on the river, and then I guess from the way it was described as the south zone, I was thinking that you're talking about that area, but I guess I wouldn't consider the south zone north of the eye clinic.
Right. For a while, it was all we had, so I suppose.
But is there something that, I guess for, the city planning and that, to me, it just seems that it's a misnomer in a way, and maybe that can be looked at a different point. Is this the central zone or central zone, east side, or however you want to describe it, but I guess I would never call it the south zone.
Sure. I think the same model, though, also should be looked at as we develop the northeast riverfront. We're already looking at, some sections up near where we took Great Lakes Cheese down, and, eventually, once that new water plant is built, if that property becomes available, and, as plans are executed there, I guess I'd like to see the same model for similar chargebacks, and the same thing with that south zone, as we start to look and see what's going to happen someday with that farmers market area. And between Island Place and the library, I guess we could look at something similar there too, and, use this one as a model. Because this system of chargebacks has kind of been a long time coming, because we do take on more and more. And if we can get some help from those who benefit, that's fantastic. So with that, do we have a motion to approve this item that would impose these agreements? Motion by Ryan, second by Herbst. Further discussion or questions? If not, members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. That motion is approved. Item number 7 is discussion and possible action on a fourth amendment to the development agreement and the first amendment to the ground lease with Van Smiling Eyes LLC. This is the ground lease and the development agreement for Wow. And I guess if you guys want to walk us through this one a little bit, it sounds to me like they would like to offset a few of their assessments with their ground lease payments. Is that what I was reading in there?
Yeah, I guess I can
Go ahead, Brad.
introduce it a bit.
Sure.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I mean, the purpose really is to bring in, with our agreement with WOW, the new declarations that we didn't have before, so this, brings those into the mix. And also the dumpster area, which were recently completed, it addresses those where it hasn't been before, so that's sort of the basis of the amendments.
So it addresses the enclosure and the need for maintenance and care of that enclosure that's getting put up, and then basically binds them to this series of chargebacks that we just passed?
Correct, yeah, I think the original agreements, said that they would sign the declarations. I guess, this spells it out, the details of that.
Okay. Was there any offset to some of these assessments for them for ground lease payments, or no? I thought I saw something in there for, or was it assessments beyond 16,000 a year maybe? There was a figure contained in that packet material. Let me grab that. If I can
Yeah,
find,
it's in number 3. I have to read that again. It is, 16,000 is the cap on the
on the
amount
fees.
paid. There is a base rent offset. I don't know, Mary Ann, do you recall the details of what that is?
My recollection, is a similar type of cap was allowed for the River Life. And so it really was just implementing consistency with their agreement as
Sure.
well. That was my recollection, that we were trying to make them consistent from entity to entity. And because River Life signed theirs after Van Smiling Eyes, we were just trying to make them,
Get them all on
same.
the same page?
that was my recollection.
Okay. Committee members, questions for Brad or Mary Ann about this item? If not, is there a motion to approve? Motion by Martins, a second by Watson. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None are opposed, that motion carries as well. And the last item we have tonight is discussion and possible action on a property lease agreement with Myron Construction regarding the property at 1300 Cleveland Avenue. And you'll recall that the property at 1300 Cleveland really isn't going anywhere fast. We just agreed to a robust environmental testing plan for that parcel. So in the meantime, while it's just sitting there, Myron Construction, who's working on our wastewater facility, would like to rent that space from us to stage materials and vehicles. And so, of course, they wouldn't be upsetting soils and things. And we just allowed Lunda to do that near the riverfront while they're doing our bridge deck work. So it's a few extra bucks for us, and it's super convenient for them to have a place to stage all this stuff that's close to where they're working. Committee members, do you have questions on this item at all? Go ahead, Mike.
Most of that property, that's hard surfaced already, isn't it? So there's not going to be any kind of environmental
No,
impact for them.
pretty much all of it is. I
Yeah.
mean, with the exception of that, some of that area that used to be yard waste, I think, is still gravel, but there's a lot of pavement there.
Yeah, okay.
Deb, go ahead.
How did we come up to $300 a month? It just seems very low, in my opinion.
Memory serves, I think, isn't that what we decided to charge Lunda? Normally, we don't charge for that type of, it's parking, basically. And so, they're already working for us. The first proposal that we received was the one for the Bridge Street deck work, and we hadn't charged for the parking on that vacant city property from people that were working for us that I recall.
And that is what we charge them.
Is that what we charged them? So this would be the same charge for them? Okay. Go ahead.
Is there a way we can confirm that or hold that off until we have that confirmed? I'd rather see some
I know Eric
accountability
just
of
walked out, I think, to take a phone call, but he would know because he brought us the
of
first one.
consistency between,
Right.
one firm to the other.
Mary Ann, I gave Bobby a check.
Oh, did you?
I think it was yesterday, but honestly, the days run together. He didn't share it with you? I believe it was for 600 and it indicated 2 months.
Okay.
Okay,
I can text here.
see if Eric can stop back, because I think he walked out with his phone. Okay, let's see. If we can-
I guess I had another question then.
Sure, go
like
ahead.
they will take on like, for snow removal, they'll be taking on that responsibility, so the city won't have to be doing those services.
And I don't know to what extent we already, I guess we'd have to know what extent we do maintenance on that property to start with for winter maintenance. I don't know that, other than the area that surrounds St. Vinny's, I don't know that we have a whole lot of snow removal going on there, do we? Because nothing's
think
been,
so.
the property hasn't been used. I don't think they've been taking care of it. I don't know that they had any cost.
Well, but if they're going to be using it for 9 months, they probably will be dealing with snow removal.
Well, they would have to, yeah.
And when we want to put that clear in there that they're handling the snow removal, not the city.
Go ahead, Sarah.
July 14th is when we discussed this in finance. The item, it says, we are going to let Lunda Construction, park on that property, and they actually suggested a $300 flat fee rather than a monthly fee. So for them, we're just charging them $300 flat.
Right, their work was supposed to wrap up though real quickly compared to
So-
this. This was months and months, right? So
So, I mean, it's
they're
pretty
300
consistent.
for the whole time.
Right. That's
This
what
is
it says in
300
the
a
min-
month. Okay. Okay. All right,
But isn't this is a bigger property than what Linda's using, so it would,
it is, and they're going to be there a lot longer.
so a monthly lease, or a payment would be more acceptable than just a
Sure.
flat fee. so.
Feels that way. Okay,
I mean, if they're willing to pay $300 a month, I mean, that's sort of the rate, right? $300.
I guess I'm curious, if 300 doesn't sound right, what would be considered acceptable? Because 300 sounds right for me for what they would be using the property for.
I could live
for
with the
term.
300 also, because right now it's off the tax rolls and we're earning nothing on
Yeah.
it. So, I mean, is 300 better than zero, I guess? And
Eric says Lunda is paying 300 and that Myron will do the snow removal.
okay. So 300 a month, and they take care of the snow, seems like a reasonable arrangement.
Then can we make sure it's spelled out in the property lease agreement? I was just kind of,
Sure. So if you wanted to make a motion to approve, you could make the motion to approve with the amendment that it be clarified in the resolution that Myron is also in charge of taking care of any snow.
I agree with,
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
Thank
we
you.
have a motion from Ryan. Is there a second? Second by Martins. Further discussion or questions? Seeing none, then members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None are opposed, and that motion carries as well. That is the last item we had on our agenda for tonight, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Herbst. Second by Watson. Members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We'll stand adjourned, and Common Council then will start in this chamber at 6:30. Thanks, everybody.